Can you?
So just start again. Yeah.
Yeah. So just feel free to answer on a group chat or unmute yourself if you resonate with the question that on a screen. Does meeting new people and going to unfamiliar communities make one nervous and lead to assumptions? कतै जाँदाखेरि नयाँ मान्छे भेट्दा नयाँ कम्युनिटी जाँदाखेरि हुन्छ नि यो त्यस्तो होला यो त त्यस्तो होला भनेर हुने अक्वर्ड हुने अप्ठ्यारो हुने हुन्छ Feel free to write on the chat box. Of course. Yes, thank you for answering that. And is there any way that we can prepare ourselves before we start working with unfamiliar people and environment? I experienced that so many times. Is there any way we can do that? यो गर्नु छ त्यो गर्नु छ कस्तो कोहीसँग भाइ पनि मिल्दैन एनर्जी पनि मिल्दैन के गर्ने कसो गर्ने मनै जाने नि मनै लाग्दैन बट जानु पर्छ so how to do that, how to work on that? Anyone would like to unmute and answer?
Can I say?
Yes, Susmita, over to you. Yes, of course.
As much unfamiliar people like यदि work गर्न जानु भन्दा अगाडि चाहिँ we can do assessment नि त कस्तो छ भनेर उनीहरुको त्यो स्टेटसलाई हेर्न सक्छौं So about the community गएपछि हामीलाई अलिकति सजिलो होला नि त So I think that
Thank you. Susmita rightly mentioned that we should do assessment before going to that place. We should do research and we should be mindful of that where we're going on. We should understand their background, we should understand their culture, we should understand their religion, we should understand their belief. That I experienced personally that I had a prior assumptions. Oh, I'm a good communicator. I'm a people person. I can do that. No, I was challenged. That's why I learned that we should do a prior good study and research and try to be on their shoes, empathize. So this is the part that personally, me and my team felt that we have to have a sense of community immersion before going there. So community immersion is the answer to all the questions, to all the confusions, to all the awkwardness, to all the assumptions that we are building about that community. So what is community immersion? It's like involvement with unfamiliar people or communities, trying to be on the shoes and understand their, so it's and understand the community in a way that you can make the people or the representative from the community a part of the solution on a problem we are working on. So community immersion is also an opportunity to reflect on one's assumptions, attitudes, and knowledge. So some of you are from Nepalganj. Now I have been there so few times. I could have my assumption, oh, it's a hot place. It's on that side. I don't know if I can thrive or not. That's my assumptions. When I go there, when I talk to the SRH champion from Nepalganj, try to understand her, try to get immersed on that area, then I can understand and I can also challenge my assumptions or, understand the real community that the living and lifestyle. So it's an opportunity to understand the different community constants, processes, dynamics, and lifestyle through engagement, being on their shoes. And people say that when you are at Rome, live like a when you are in Rome, be like Rome people, something. So when you are at Surkhet, be like the people from Surkhet. When you are at Kathmandu, be like a people of Kathmandu, if that makes sense. So community immersion for SRF champions. So why we need to get immersed is because we are tapping on very sensitive topic, on a very niche area. We are going on a community where there are already existing taboos and myths. How are we going to break that? Being diplomatic, being nice, being honest, being transparent, also as an educator. So we need to get immersed there. We need to understand the community. We need to try to listen to their stories. So it's a very essential component for us to get immersed on that community as a champions. So you have to create an impact with your identity, your proud identity as a champions for school. So that's why community immersion for SRA champions is needed for you. So moving forward, why for students? Because at the end, the entire, we are doing research, creating this curriculum, doing the sessions for whom? It's for them. So we have to let them understand the civic consciousness, identify their local community problems, and work for their solution, because they are the one living in that community. We are just a mediator of that community. So we have to teach them to get immersed on the community to understand in a better way. So moving forward, how can we develop a community immersion is discuss, get involved, get into a social gatherings, actively participate, and do the experience sharing. And whom to emerge with through the SRS training. First, I elaborated about the community partners. They are the partners who are already the individuals or a group working on that community, who have the better knowledge and understanding of the social, economical, or political situation of that community. So our target group are the community schools. So even though you are representing, for example, from Pokhara, you have lived there, but the community would be different within few kilometers away. The community on one school could be slightly different when you go to another school. So we have to get immersed on that target group. Also the social members, school teachers, when we are going to teach young girls, how are you going to communicate and how are you going to emerge with the faculty, with the teachers who are already teaching on sexual and reproductive health. So we have to be empathetic, and we have to get alignment with the teachers we're teaching on that content, with the students and with the parents, with the professionals and with the local stakeholders. So connecting the session, I try to elaborate a little about community immersion. So we're going to discuss more and more about understanding the community throughout the 7 weeks of session. But to understand that, we have to understand our own values and a vision for that community immersion. Personally, Dave is here, such a smiling face, you're glowing. Dave is my leadership coach from Community Engagement Exchange Program. Prior to his session, I used to think that I'm aware, I know what to do, but I was not aware, okay, I have to have a clear vision. I have to have the sets of names of values. I was like, what is 8? I can just randomly say, I used to think that I know those keywords I can do, but being on his session, I realized that I have to understand that values in a way that I'm living on that values. My family, empathy, integrity, growth, serving communities. These words are now on my brain, on my heart, everywhere. And it's a huge credit goes to the Dave for molding us, for teaching us the essence and the importance of understanding our values and the vision. Because of the values and the vision, I was trained. I am now being able to get aligned with the team of Hamro Baini. Team that I talked and I shared my value with them, why we want this program, what is the vision. That was aligned with them. That's why they are on board voluntarily. They're managing their time apart from their personal and professional engagement, because we got alignment on our values. So we also want to get alignment with you all as a champion, so that we'll have a very meaningful connection to be a part of the change we're looking. It could take a couple of years or decades, but we are on a journey to be a part of the change. And then I want to take a privilege to understand my leadership coach, and now it's your leadership coach, Dave Mendel. Correct me if I pronounce your name wrongly. So today's session is Know Your Values and Vision for Community Immersion. Dave is an accomplished leader, coach, is Senior Vice President at Think to Perform, a US-based consulting and coaching firm. He has been training leaders and aspiring leaders through his practical, proven, and collaborative approach. Emphasizing on executive coaching and team development, Dave helps leaders get results with and through other, guided by a moral compassion. And he's so amazing. I'm so sorry that you're just seeing him virtually. I had a privilege to meet him, to share my emotions, understanding, and grow throughout the journey. So I took a privilege to invite you, Dave, here. And thank you for managing your time, being on the other side of the world, and even on a Friday night, giving this time to us. It means a lot to entire of
You muted yourself there. Is it hand off to me?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, good to go. Okay, all right. Well, hello, everybody. This is amazing to be with you during early morning for you and nighttime for me. I meant to be on earlier, actually, but I screwed up on the time zone. I know it's like 12 hours and 45 minutes different. And so I had intended to be on at the very beginning. But here I am. I'm on time for my session. That's a good thing. So I am just really thrilled and honored that Prakriti invited me to be part of your journey. I know you're on the front end of that journey, and what a meaningful journey that's going to be for the people that you're going to impact, for the lives that you'll touch, and the ripple effect that you'll have. Right, you're like a rock in a pond. Right, you're gonna make a ripple effect, touching lives of young girls, their family members, their loved ones, and most importantly themselves and their journey ahead. So I'm just honored to be with you. So I'll share my my screen with you, and then we'll get going, because there's a lot of ground to cover. Okay, and I want this to be as you know, with so many of you, it's hard to make it real interactive. My intention is to have a couple breakout sessions near the end, when we get into some of the work around your value, or around your vision for your community immersion experience. To get going, what I want to share with you is, let me move things around here a little bit on my screen so I can get it adjusted here. All right, there we go. So we're going to start off with this notion that I find pretty fundamental, and that is that one, leadership is not a matter of position, right? Leadership is a matter of behavior, and every interaction we have with another human being, I think, is an opportunity to lead. Thinking about influence, I have an opportunity to influence another person in terms of their experience with me, with what's going on in terms of the context that the interaction is happening in. And that influence can be positive or not so positive. It can be kind of a bummer, kind of a bad experience, right? So what we know is that when we're interacting with other human beings, we have this potential to influence and impact them. One of my mentors taught me years and years ago, because I'm an old guy. I'm like 61 years old, and here you guys are all so young and full of potential. I'm excited for you. But I'm this grizzled old bald guy here in Montana, the United States. And my mentor years ago, thankfully earlier in my career, gave me this concept of every interaction opportunity to touch another human being, intentional thinking about there being a flame of potential. There's a flame of potential in every person that you interact with. Thinking about your experience coming up with it, with this program, the people you interact with, if you envision that there's a flame of potential within each person, just think what you can do with that flame. There are really two choices, right? There are two things that happen with a flame. You either serve as a bellows to that flame to help it grow and foster. The other thing that can happen with flames is we douse them. You either pour a bunch of water on them, we snuff them out. So knowing that the stakes are kind of high, right? Because every interaction, no matter how minor it may seem, is an opportunity to fan that flame of someone's potential, or to snuff that flame of potential. So as leaders and as champions in this program, my hope and prayer for all of you is that you become fanners. I'll just use that word. You become fanners. You are the billows. That's what you see on the screen there. And I apologize if I'm using words that some of you may not know. But that's a billows that fans a flame to help it burn even brighter. And you do that by how you interact with another person versus snuffing. So we want to be fanners, not snuffers. That's kind of the headline here. Let's be fanners, not snuffers. And it's up to you making those choices about how you interact with one another. The other aspect to this leadership thing is it really starts inside. Leadership is not about your external disposition, the things you do outside of yourself. Yes, those things matter, like how you manage budgets and how you think about strategy and all of that. That really matters. But where it all starts is in here and in here, right? So a fundamental belief that I have is this, that how effective you are overall and in relationships is a function of how you lead yourself. And how you lead yourself is a function of how self-aware you are. How aware are you of the impact you're having on others? How aware are you of the of what's driving your behavior? How aware are you of the emotions you're experiencing? And are those emotions getting in the way of you being effective, or are they helping you be effective? Are they helping you be a fanner, not a snuffer, right? So it's counterintuitive a little bit that how I am with others is first a function of how I am with myself. My self-confidence, my self-regard, my belief in what I'm doing, my alignment with my values, which we're going to get into very shortly. But you got to know them, right? You have to know them. If you don't take the time to really dig into understand what really is driving me, then you're just kind of moving through life as kind of like a piece of wood on the ocean, right? You're just floating around. What are you grounded by? What are you grounded by? So that's what this session is really about. It's helping you get grounded in those values. And to get there, I'm going to share with you a model that I use in my executive coaching work, in my work with groups, but really in my work, especially with individuals. So this alignment model is about looking at 3 different windows. And we're gonna spend most of our time on frame 1, a little bit of time on frame 3, and I'm just gonna touch on frame 3. We're gonna focus mainly on frames 1 and 3. I think I misspoke. We'll spend a little, I'm just gonna make sure you understand what frame 2 is, but most of our time is going to be on frame 1 and 3. Now just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me okay. Thumbs up if you can hear me okay.
Yes, we do.
Okay, because I saw something happen with a cloud server thing, and so I wasn't sure if I maybe disconnected. Okay, good. All right, thank you for that feedback that I'm still connected. That's a good thing. Okay, so frame 1 is what we call your moral compass. And as Prakriti talked about me and the work I do, it's really helping leaders get good things done with and through other people, guided by a moral compass. But you got to know what your moral compass is, right? To be able to align yourself, your behavior with it. So the moral compass, or another way to put this, is what's the best version of me? What's the best version of Dave Meldal, right? How do I show up in the world? And so I need to be clear about what is that? What's that ideal me? What's that ideal self for me? So the moral compass is made up of these 3 things: principles, which I consider universal, like integrity, responsibility, compassion, and forgiveness across the world. You cut across demographics, cultures, religions, gender, all that stuff, and you'll find that there are many things that we all as human beings have in common, right? And those universal principles, integrity, responsibility, compassion, or forgiveness, every culture would say, yes, we espouse that. That would be part of our ideal. Those are just part of being human. Values, on the other hand, are chosen. My values may be different than yours, and that's okay. But I need to be clear on what mine are if I want to line up my behavior with them. So we want to get really clear on what our values are, and that's what we'll be spending some time doing. And then beliefs. Beliefs are the kind of shorthand version, if you will, of how I see the world. Okay. whether my political beliefs, my religious beliefs, my beliefs around the social condition, the human condition, if you will. So what is my belief system today, or tonight, whatever time zone you may be in, is going to be focusing really on those values that are very, very much a part of you personally. So there's a book called The Leadership Challenge that I advocate that you maybe consider reading at some point in your journey through life. And the authors in that book highlighted a few things here that I think tie into this frame one, or my moral compass. So how do I, whether it's a politician, a teacher, a religious leader, whatever it is, if they're the messenger, I'm not going to believe them. If I don't believe them, I'm not going to believe the message that they have. So if I don't believe the messenger, like what they represent, I'm not going to believe whatever they have to say, right? So I need to believe the messenger, to believe whatever they're communicating. Also, I can't believe in the messenger if I don't know what the messenger believes, right? So what makes them tick? What are they espousing, and why? What's behind their messages? So I can't believe in the messenger if I don't know what the messenger believes. But here's the kicker, you guys. This third one, each of you can't be the messenger. You can't be the champion in the communities you seek to influence if you're not clear about what you believe. Back again to, this is an inside job, right? It all starts in here and in here. So until you're clear about what you believe, it's hard to be the messenger that others are going to believe in. Okay. Let's dive into this notion around values. And we're going to spend a bit of time here actually having you go through an exercise. And I'm going to put the link in chat. But these values are the stakes in the ground that you're saying, these reflect the best version of me, right? So you want these. I'm going to give you an exercise. You're going to go online to do this. An exercise that will help you make some difficult choices about what's important to you. Because until you're really clear about a handful of values that you say, yes, these are what I am going to fight for, that these are what I'm going to behave in alignment with as much as I can. We're human, so we fail on that, but you got to be clear on what you're shooting for, right? So values are designed to guide your behavior, kind of to be those guardrails, if you will, so that you know that you're operating within that zone of what you aspire to be, that best version of yourself. They also help with decision making. If I'm making a decision, how aligned is that decision with my values? Unless you know what your values are, you're not, it's harder to make that decision, right? Okay. So here's the activity. This is going to be online. This is an exercise that is on our website. So I'm going to send it. I know it's on the screen. I'm going to send you a link here. And let's see, here we go. So I want everybody to click on that link into a separate window. And what you're going to, we're going to cross our fingers that technology works, right? Here's what I promise you. If technology is not working for you tonight, or this morning, I should say, your time, then that's okay. Just make sure you capture this website address and go back to it. The website has been accessed from people all over the world, so we know that it works. So here's your task, and I'm going to give you about 15 minutes or so to actually go through this exercise to identify what are those values that are most important for you. It's iterative. So you'll see that you're going to have a deck of cards, and you're going to move the cards around to one of two piles. One pile is going to be, these are important to me. This other pile is less important. They're all good, right? These are all good things, but some are more important to you than others. So I want you to separate them into two piles. at the end of going through that, there's going to be an opportunity for you to add a value, because maybe there's something that's really important to you that's not on one of the cards. So know that you'll be able to create your own value if that's important to you. Also, there's a little definition you'll see for each card. Just know that if that definition isn't quite what you want that word to mean, that's okay. This is your process. These are your values. So if you want to think about that card meaning something slightly different than what the definition is, that's a-okay. So I'm going to turn you loose here now for about 15 minutes. When you get done, I want you to give a thumbs up, okay? So I can kind of calibrate time, because some of you may need a little bit less, some of you may need a little bit more. So, and also you'll be able to come back to this and redo it as often as you want. This is a free part of our website. Okay, I'm going to pause and just see if anyone has any questions. I'm terrible about watching chat while I'm facilitating because I get distracted. But if you have a question, you can put it in chat. Prakriti and others can probably help me watch that. If you want to unmute yourself, if you have a question, and ask it verbally, that's okay too. So I'll just pause, let you dive in to the website, start the process, and I'll set my timer here for about 15 minutes. And if you have questions, let us know. And I'll make some comments along the way, because I know you'll get to different points in the process and you might have questions.
Yeah, in the meantime, I'll play a good music, maybe. Did it?
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good. How's the music, Dave? Yeah, it's a Nepali instrumental music. It's gonna help them to understand their values, you know, peace of mind. Thank you,
I
Sanjana.
can't hear you with the music on. It's pretty loud.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Let me jump in here for a minute.
Yep.
Okay, so
Hi, Dave.
I'm guessing that some of you are getting close to having your two piles. So I just want to tee up what happens next. Once you've got the two piles, you're going to take the pile that's most important and you're going to select 15. Okay, so there's going to be a bit of a winnowing process, and it's going to get harder as you go along. So just know, ultimately, what we're getting down to is 5 values. So there's going to be 2 steps or 3 steps. 1, 2 piles, a second one down to 15, then down to 10, then down to 5. Okay, so just know that's where we're going. It's going to get harder. And one tip is, as you get down to that winnowing process, is to think about, is there a word that captures multiple values? Like sometimes people will put relationships, and that in their mind includes family and friends, right? So instead of having 2 values, one family, one friends, they say relationships captures both. I didn't, so whatever floats your boat, if you will, in terms of winnowing it down, but having an umbrella word can be helpful to you to capture a variety of words under that in your mind. So just know you're going to be narrowing it down from 1 pile to 15 to 10 to 5. Okay, back at it. Adit, with your thumbs up, did that mean that you were done down to your 5?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So I don't need to rush anybody. Just wanted to check that's what you meant. Thank you. Thank you. So another thumbs up. Yep. Remember when you're done with down to your 5, give me a thumbs up. No rush, just want to calibrate time. I'm glad to know that technology is working so far tonight. That's good. Okay, I'll give you a couple more minutes. Looks like many of you are done, but not everybody. I mean, we're not going to necessarily get everybody done tonight. You can finish that up on your own or throughout the rest of the session.
Link आ रहा है यहाँ तो link आ रहा है link आ रहा है मैं कौन से भरा थे इधर
Oh, I can't. Hold on, I gotta adjust my volume.
No, I just said that someone missed the link. I heard that. So we can send you the link again.
You bet. It's in chat. It's still in chat.
Yes, it's
Oh,
still
there
in
you go.
chat.
Thank you.
And
Yep.
and it's also on a WhatsApp group chat. Yeah.
Yep. Perfect. Okay. I know if maybe a few of you are still finishing up, and again, that's okay. As I don't want to rush you. By that, I mean, you'll be able to go back and continue this journey of completing your values. I'm going to move us forward a bit here and just talk a little bit about these values. So a couple things that come up often is like, why 5? What's up with the number 5, right? And there are a couple of reasons for that. One is you can remember them, right? If there were 10 or 15, that's just, at least for me, it's hard to keep that many things in my mind. And because you want these to be really accessible to you. And if you got so many of them, it's less able to draw them up out of your mind if there's too many of them. So memorable is one. Another one, and more important than that, actually, is that if everything is important, then nothing is, right? So this forces you to say, these are the most important values that I want to try to align my behavior with. So if you had 10, 15, 20 values, you said, these are most important to me, can you imagine the number of times that you would have what I call values conflict, where one value is kind of competing with another, and then what do you do? So having 5 just really forces you to say, these are the most important. And then it becomes not easy, but easier to align your behavior. So if you come away with one thing from this morning's conversation with me, it's that you get really, really clear about your values. And as Prakriti talked about at the beginning, knowing them. If you don't know them, then what's the point, right? What I don't want is you to go through this exercise and say, oh yeah, I've clarified my values before. And then the person asks you, well, what are they? And you go, well, I think family was one. I think, health might have been another one. But I can't remember the other 3, right? You need to be able to access these. And the way I talk about this is that you want to be able to access your values in the dark. What do I mean by that? I mean that when your emotions are running high, when you're in a very stressful situation, when you're faced with choices that maybe are tempting but are not quite right for you, when you're faced with a big decision, those are moments when you want to be able to access your values like that. So here's my advice to be able to do that. Find something that you do at least twice a day that serves as a prompt or a trigger for you to recite your values. Literally, that's the best way I have found to keep my own values top of mind. and accessible to me in the dark. So what's my prompt, you might be wondering? Believe it or not, my prompt is brushing my teeth. As silly as that may sound, I'm brushing my teeth twice a day, generally. And what else can you do when you're brushing your teeth? You can't talk. You're like, my wife is next to me. I can't talk, right? When I'm brushing my teeth. Why not make something useful out of brushing my teeth? So I'm brushing my teeth and I'm reciting my values. And my values are to live with integrity, to love my family, to nurture my faith, to seek growth, and to make healthy choices. Now, there's two things about that. One, you notice I'm not looking at it. My values are not posted anywhere, right? They're burned into my brain because twice a day I'm brushing my teeth and I'm reciting my values multiple times. So they're top of mind. You may also have noticed that I added a verb. Live with integrity, love my family, nurture my faith, seek growth, make healthy choices. So what I encourage you to do is, with the values that you've settled on tonight, first, make sure that those are solid for you. They can always change, but for now, maybe go through it again or reflect more on them. Say, yep, for now, these are solid for me. And then make them actionable. So add a verb. I have clients that will actually turn them into a sentence or two. So they string their values together with other words and they make a couple sentences, right? But they're making them actionable. So I encourage you to do those things. One, make them actionable, and then find a prompt, something that's going to cause you to recite them at least twice a day, some habit. So it becomes a habit that you do that. If that's all you do as a result of our conversation with one another tonight, that can be huge, because then you have that clarity around what's the best version of me, because then it gets a little harder. And that's what we're going to switch to now, is frame 3. But before we move to frame 3, I want to just pause and see if there are any questions that people have. You can unmute yourself. You can put something in chat. Any questions you have about values, about the values exercise, anything coming up for you that you want to ask about? Okay. Well, if something pops up for you later, feel free to unmute yourself, put something in chat. Really, I don't mind being interrupted. I'd rather have dialogue than just listen to myself talk the whole time. So feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like, or to put something in chat. Okay, hearing no questions, let's move on to frame 3, right? So frame 1 is our ideal self. Frame 3 is our real self. What's really showing up? So if you had a video camera following you around, what would that video camera be seeing? What's the real behavior? Especially if that video could get inside of your head and know what your thoughts are, know what your emotions are. But then importantly, what's the behavior, right? What are the actions that you're taking? So we want to be really aware, back to that being self-aware, as leading myself and being self-aware. One, I need to know what my ideal self is. And then secondly, I want to know in the moment, what are my thoughts, my feelings, and my actions, and how aligned are those with my ideal self? Okay, I'm going to pause here. There are some questions that maybe are coming directly to me. I can answer offline or afterwards. I might do that. If you have a question that would be more broad to the entire group, feel free to put that in. Or during a pause, I might be able to respond to a direct message. Okay, back to frame 3. So let's unpack this a little bit. So I'm kind of putting this real self frame, if you will, into this experiential triangle. And what psychologists call experience is made up of these three things: our feelings, our emotions, what we're thinking, and then what's our behavior, both physiologically and actually that overt behavior. So let me walk you through a kind of a silly maybe example here, so you see what the heck I'm talking about. So let's say there's an outside stimulus, right? So I'm going to use the example of, we probably all have, we all are old enough to drive. So we've driven, we've probably been cut off by another driver, right? They just cut us off. They turn in front of us, and it's almost a near accident, right? So let's say that's the outside stimulus. When that happens like that, you experience emotions. You can't help it. Emotions just come up. You can't control your emotion. That's part of being human, is we have these emotions that we just experience. So in that experience of being cut off in traffic, probably some likely emotions would be fear, right? Wow, that was a close call. Anger, right? Anger at that other person. Those are a couple of emotions that likely come up. Thoughts could be, and then thinking about this negatively, right? When we're not our best self, negatively, a thought could be lousy driver, idiot, right? Now, physiologic, and these are happening really, really like thousands of a second, right? Emotions pop up, thoughts pop up. Physiologically, what happens in a situation like that? Our heart rate goes up, right? We might get more tense. Our hands are clenched. We might even get a little sweaty really fast, our hands. And behaviorally, the action, we're going to stomp on the brake, right? We're going to stomp on, we might even honk the horn. So this is happening really fast, really, really fast. But here's the kicker, right? Now behaviorally, I might do some other things, like in the US, we would call it flipping the bird. If you know what that means, it's giving them a hand signal that's not really, it's like a swear word. I don't know how to say it appropriately, but flipping them the bird is what we would say in the US, and that's not really a very kind thing to do. But in the moment when we're getting kind of emotionally hijacked, that could happen. This experiential triangle happens really fast, right? If you've got a friend who makes some comment to you that's kind of hurtful, that's the outside stimulus. You have an emotion just like that. You have thoughts about that person, about what they said, really, really fast. You then do something. You may say something back to that friend that's kind of hurtful back at them. You may, you could even punch them, right? I mean, that would be really over the top, right? You could physically do something. You could walk away in a huff, right? Again, my point is, this experiential triangle is happening really, really fast. And sometimes, because we're less aware than we ideally would be about what we're thinking, what we're feeling, and what we're doing, we get out of alignment with our ideal self, right? So my flipping the bird to that driver who cut me off, that's not really a really good reflection of my best self, right? Especially when you think about the universal principles of compassion and forgiveness, right? Because guess what? For all I know, that driver just found out some horrible news about a loved one. Maybe they're on their way to the hospital, right? I don't know. I'm making these assumptions and I'm just reacting like that. As opposed to, if I just think about this, if in that moment I caught myself and before I flipped in the bird, I thought, I changed what I'm thinking. I actually reframe what I'm thinking and say, I wonder what's going on in that person's life. I hope that they didn't just hear some bad news. Or, you know what? I've done that myself. I'm going to cut that person some slack. when you reframe how you're thinking, the thoughts, guess what that does to the emotion? It might calm you down a little bit. It's like, you know what, I'm just going to say a little prayer for that person as they go along their day, right? Reframing what you're thinking can influence what you're feeling. So we can't control our emotions, but we can control and manage what we think. So when you're in tough situations, when you're in situations that are really bugging you, your emotional radar is really up, you may be getting a little bit heated, or you're really sad, right? Whatever it is that's driving a negative emotion, pay attention to what you're thinking. Because more often than not, what you're thinking is feeding into your emotional state. And what you think about can influence your emotional state to be more positive, more effective, more aligned with your ideal self. And then you can make choices around your actual behavior, that third part, the physiology and the actions, that then can lead to different choices. So how do you do that? One way is to literally hit the mental pause button. This is not easy. But if you hit the brakes kind of mentally and just very briefly say to yourself, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? And what am I doing? And what is my body experiencing? Am I tense? Is my heart rate up? What's going on? Am I anxious for some reason? I can feel it. Pay attention to all that. And then ask yourself this most important question. How aligned is what I'm thinking, feeling, and doing or about to do with my values, with my ideal self? That's where the rubber hits the road. If you can make sure that you're more self-aware, again, in the moment, and this is not easy, you have to practice this by hitting that, and I practice this I actually get text messages on my phone. You can to say, what are you thinking, feeling, and doing? Randomly, I can get those text messages to myself, and it catches me, and it's just mental practice. What am I thinking, feeling, and doing? And how aligned are those with my values? Okay, so I know we're doing a whirlwind tour here on this alignment model. So I want to just plant these seeds with you. If you want to explore this further, by the way, Doug Lennox, our founder, and one of my mentors over the course of my career, co-wrote a book called Moral Intelligence 2.0. They wrote it initially, and then they updated it during the major recession in 2008, and just added some perspective given the recession that happened. So it's Moral Intelligence 2.0 if you want to understand a little bit more about the model. So let me just check here on chat. Yeah, so there's a question around, no matter, not everyone can implement our values in our daily life, no matter how much we try. People around us most of the time provoke us, and we're out of our values. And so what's the step to implement? And I hopefully to give you one tip there, which is a couple. One, you need to know your values and commit them to memory and reflect on them. Just knowing them increases the odds that you're going to live according to them, because when you live outside of them, you just don't feel right. You're making choices that are contrary to what you said are part of your best self. So it increases the odds. There's no one thing that I can tell you that is going to cause you to align your behavior 100% of the time, because guess what? We're human. We're not going to 100% of the time align our behavior with our best self. That's just part of the human condition. What separates highly effective people from less effective is not that they're always in alignment. It's just that they know when they're out of alignment quicker, sooner, and they get themselves back in alignment more quickly. It's not about being perfect. It's just about knowing, oops, you know what? I'm out of alignment with that behavior. And how do I get back in? And having those deepening your self-awareness is the best way to increase the frequency of your alignment. And knowing when someone provokes you, when someone pushes a button, oftentimes our physiological responses are an initial indicator that something's off, right? Something's being pinched. I call it a values pinch. Someone's doing something that maybe is causing you to consider behaving in a way that's out of alignment with your values. So pay attention to what your body is saying physiologically, but then also think about what's the self-talk going on? Is there some barrier in the way I'm framing this situation that's preventing me from taking an action that's more in alignment? But just give yourself grace, you guys. Give yourself grace. You are not going to live in alignment all the time. You're going to screw up. And that's why one of those universal principles is so important. Forgiveness. It's not only about forgiving other people, it's about forgiving ourselves when we're not quite in alignment. And then saying, you know what, I'm going to do better tomorrow. I'm going to do better tomorrow. Okay. So that's frame 1 and frame 3. Frame 2 is kind of what's all this behavior directed to. So I want my purpose. I want to be clear about why am I doing what I'm doing? So for instance, with this program and becoming immersed in these communities and you being a champion, that's part of your purpose. One of your goals is to be an effective champion. So then the question is, are the behavioral choices you're making aligned with fulfilling that purpose, that goal? Because for instance, you've got several weeks here of program, right? Well, if you make a choice to miss half of the sessions, you're not aligning your behavior, frame 3, with your goal of being an effective champion. I mean, that's a very basic example, right? But if I want another, for me with health, if I want to be a healthy 61-year-old, that's one of my purposes. That's my value, to be healthy, make healthy choices. I have a goal, right, to be a certain weight and a certain, I actually have a measurement around my waist. I measure how am I getting a little bit of a love handle? We call them love handles, around the middle. So I'm paying attention to that. I monitor my weight. Well, if my behavior is to eat a big bowl of ice cream with a bunch of hot fudge 5 nights a week, that's behavior that's not in alignment with my goal, right? Or to be a great husband, right? If one of my, I love my family, one of my values, if one of my goals is to be a great husband, but I spend so much time working and don't have time with my wife and put her second or third or fourth in my life, that's behavioral that are not aligned with my purpose and my goals and my values. So frame 2 helps us understand, what is all that behavior? Why am I doing that? Why is it important to me? So the more clear you are on what your purpose is, what their goals are, what the aspirations you have in your life, both professionally, personally, and from a self-development perspective, if you're clear on those, then you have a better opportunity, right, to know when you're in alignment and when you're not with frame 2. So I can spend entire sessions on each of these frames, but I just wanted to tee this up for you so that alignment, increasing your degree of alignment is one of the keys to being an effective champion as part of this program. So my hope is that you invest some time to really get clear about what those values are, why they're important to you, what your goals and aspirations are, and that'll tie into your vision here in a little bit around this program. and then making sure that you're making the behavioral choices that will allow you to fulfill your purpose. So let me just pause there and see what questions are coming up for anyone at this point. We're good? Okay, one last thing on the alignment model. What breaks this alignment? I've given you some examples here, but one set of things that can break our alignment, if you will, are moral viruses. So things like, I mean, we can come up with probably many, but like men are better than women, right? Men are superior to women. Now, I would consider that a moral virus. Dishonesty is a moral virus. Or telling myself it's okay to steal because I'm needy. It's okay to steal. That might be a moral virus. The ends justifies the means could be a moral virus, right? Those are breaking some of those universal principles of integrity, compassion, responsibility, and forgiveness. And then we also have destructive emotions. I mean, that's where we really get haywire sometimes, right? We get what we call amygdala hijacks. Amygdala is the kind of the part of our brain that's the emotional processing center. And when we let our emotions run amok, we get this amygdala hijack, and our behavior is totally swept up by the emotion, as opposed to the prefrontal cortex, this part of our brain, which is more rational. We want to engage this. So destructive emotions actually get hormones going through our system that are flooding us to prepare to fight or flee, right? The old fight flight response. That's what destructive emotions do. They prepare us to fight or to run. But in this day and age, that's not the most effective thing. It's about, let's engage our prefrontal cortex and think actually about how aligned am I in this moment with my best self, with my purpose and my behavior. Destructive emotions like anger, jealousy, envy, right? We can just rattle off a whole bunch of them probably in terms of destructive emotions. Just know when you're experiencing an emotion, don't judge it too harshly, because emotions initially, they just come up. You cannot stop. You cannot not feel. Let's put it that way, unless you're, a sociopath, right? But if you're a normal human being, you cannot not feel. That's just the way it is. And those emotions come up. What you can do, remember, is pay attention to what you're thinking, because what you're thinking is going to influence if that emotion gets stoked, or if you can evolve it to a more productive state. Okay. All right, I'm going to take a drink of water. Okay, so, and for Kriti, I'm going to do a time check. Because what I had in my head was an hour and a half for my session, which would take us to about another 45 minutes.
Yep.
Is that cool?
I would
Okay.
check.
Okay. And if we have more time, you guys want to chat more, I'm happy to hang on here for a little bit before I fall. I don't want to fall asleep on you. Okay. Let's see if there's any questions coming up. It doesn't look like it. All right. So that is the alignment model. Here's some urging of you. If you really want this to stick, you have to do something with this. And I promise you, if you do something with this within the next 24 hours, you will be ahead of the game. And by doing something with this, here are some things. But one thing that I want to underline is that share your values. Even share the concept of the alignment model with someone. When you teach it, you learn it twice, right? So if you share with a friend, a family member, hey, let me tell you about this alignment model that I just learned about, that would help it move from short-term memory to longer-term memory. So as it relates to your values, I know some of you maybe didn't finish, some of you maybe went faster than you wanted to. Just reflect on what you came up with, right? Just say, yep, those really are, for now, excuse me, the values that I want to put a stake in the ground for. And also know, by the way, I forgot to mention this earlier, values can change, right? Doing that exercise when I was 25 looks a lot different when I'm 61, right? So values change. So what I do, I redo my values, I refresh my values every year. So I generally do that in December or January. I just did it recently, early this month. I just do a refresh, and they have evolved over time. So maybe put something, a calendar entry in your calendar, that sometime maybe in December or January, you come back to the website and redo the exercise, right? That would be pretty cool, just to make that an annual ritual for yourself. So know that they can evolve and change. So reflect and affirm, just kind of make sure you've got, yep, this is what I want to go with for now. Memorize them. Sometimes people put them on a Post-it note and on their mirror in the bathroom, or on their desk, or on their computer. Maybe it's on their saved screensaver, anything that visually helps, but that's not where you want to keep them. That maybe initially gives you a way to memorize them, but ultimately do away with the visuals, so that you're forced to bake them into your brain, right? And then pick that ritual that you will do. Like, you can pick, I would encourage you to use the brushing of teeth if you can't think of anything else. But do something that you do at least twice a day to bake them in to your brain, so they're, again, accessible to you at all times. Alignment. And that was that question. How do you stay aligned? Well, keep in mind, it's not about being in alignment 100% of the time, because we can't, right? We talked about that. But just practice. Even if you set a timer somewhat, every 2 hours, set a timer on your phone, on your watch, whatever you have that might be able to be a prompt. Say, okay, pause. What am I, in this moment, what am I thinking, feeling, and doing? It's not going to catch you necessarily in a tough spot, in an emotional situation or but it's going to train your brain to pay attention to, what am I thinking, feeling, and doing? That's what you want to do, is train your brain to be more aware, more self-aware. And then ask yourself those questions. How aligned is what I'm doing with my values and my goals and purpose, with frames 1 and 2? And then also, over time, pay attention. Are there situations where I do get derailed, where I get out of alignment? Is it with certain people? Is it under certain kind of pressure? What is it that gets you out of alignment? Is it when you're just swamped with so many things to do that you kind of lose sight of what's really important? Just so notice, if you can, notice any trends that come up, and that can give you, again, an opportunity to make different choices. If here's a trend, what can I do to break that trend if it's not a positive one? So those are just a few words of encouragement to do to make this stick, because we sure hope that this isn't just an interesting, we hope it is interesting, but not just interesting. We hope it actually makes a difference and you implement some of the things that we're sharing. Okay. We're going to turn the page then to, well, before we do, I forgot, I have one more slide for you. So I want you to actually put in chat what your answer to this question is. There are 3 frogs, let's just say there are three frogs on a lily pad. 2 frogs decide to jump off the lily pad. How many frogs are left on the lily pad? Put your answer in chat. So there's 3 frogs on the lily pad. 2 of them decide to jump off the lily pad. How many are left? Let's see what you guys come up with. Interesting. I'm seeing 3, couple 3s, 0, 3. No 1s? 0. Okay. You guys are on to me. Have you heard this before? Have you heard this before, or you're just smarter than I was when I first heard this? There are still 3, and several people had it right. Deciding is different than doing. So you may have just decided, you know what? I'm gonna, when I brush my teeth tonight and going forward, I'm gonna recite my values. You might have decided that. You might have decided that you're going to really become more self-aware about what your trends are when you get kind of derailed from your alignment. But deciding is not doing. Move from deciding to doing by actually taking action, right? Deciding is not doing. Okay. So, yep, there are a lot of 3s, right on the mark, you guys. All right, we are going to shift gears here now to crafting this vision. This is really around frame 2, right? What's your purpose around being involved in this wonderful program that's going to impact hundreds, maybe thousands of people across your country in different communities? So I've got a series of questions that I want to ask you, and I'm going to walk through these so you know where you're going, and maybe want to just jot them down, the questions on your end. And then I'm going to give you about 6 minutes to actually reflect on each of the, not 6 minutes each question, but 6 minutes or so total. Okay. So this is where you're going to have to put either pen to paper or computer, fingers to keyboard, however you're going to take some notes here. But here are the questions I want you to reflect on as it relates to what do you envision for this? Why are you involved? So here are the first set of questions. What are my top 3 reasons for committing to being a sexual and reproductive health champion? That's kind of the why. What's your why, if you will? Secondly, how does being a champion connect to maybe one of those values? And maybe there are multiple of the values you just identified. So what's the connection? Think about the skills that you bring to this experience that you're embarking on. What are the skills? Maybe, it can be one for sure, but one or more of the skills that are going to be most tapped into. What is it you bring to the table, if you will, from a skill perspective? And then think about, this is more, just think about the visually, what are the words, what are the images, maybe phrases that come to mind when you picture yourself in the moment doing this work? And then finally, what are the emotions that are evoked for you? So let me walk you through an example here. So one of the things that I do during the winter, it's winter time here, right? So we have snow in our mountains and we go skiing. I volunteer with my daughter to ski every Saturday with a person who has cerebral palsy. We've skied together for 17 years on Saturdays during the winter. So why do I do that? Why? What's my why? I want to help. I'm going to look at my notes so I don't miss something. I want to help. I want to, my faith, part of my faith experience is serving others. So I want to do that. That ties right into one of my values of faith, right? Live with integrity, love my family, nurture my faith. So I want to do it because I want to be of service, which reflects the value of faith. What a pretty good skier. I'm a pretty good skier, and I enjoy interacting. I'm kind of low key. I have fun, and with Skylar, that's his name. We have a good time, right? So I bring some interpersonal skills, and I'm pretty low key. I can handle most situations appropriately. What are some of the words and phrases, images? I have images of us laughing. I have images of hugging Skylar, right? Those are some things. I have this sense of rushing down the mountain and the cold wind on my cheeks. What emotions are evoked? Joy, a deep sense of satisfaction, a playfulness, a playful emotion. So those are all things when I think about why am I involved with, it's called Eagle Mount. those are kind of some answers for me for those 5 questions. I want to give you now about 6 minutes, in addition to whatever maybe you've already started thinking about this, answering each of those questions for you, okay? And then I'd like us to have a breakout, McCready. So I don't know if you want to do that or if you want me to do it.
I will do
But I'd like you to get in groups of 3 primarily, maybe 2, depending how it works out, but small groups of 3 or 2. But first, don't get to the breakouts yet. 6 minutes for you to answer questions 1 through 5.
Okay.
But if you could get those set up, that would be great.
I'll take a couple of minutes to do it. So,
But don't send them away yet.
I'm not. Hi, Dave. I have created the room.
Okay, cool. Give them just a couple more minutes to do that, and I'll have you share in your breakout rooms your reflections.
Mhm. Let me know when should I open all the rooms.
Yep, I'll let you know.
Okay.
Well, everyone give me a thumbs up if you're done with those 5 questions, just to calibrate time again. Yep, give you about another minute and a half. Okay. So is it primarily groups of 3, Prakriti, that you ended up with, or? Okay. So I'm going to give you 10 minutes, 10 minutes in your breakout group. So that's about three and a half minutes or so for each person. So make sure you're kind of paying attention to that. Prakriti, if we could give them a heads up, maybe at the 3-minute mark, so they know that they need to make sure they're getting to the last person. And I can help with that too. So 10 minutes, and we'll give you a heads up when you need to come back a little bit before so you can wind down. Anyone have any questions? Okay. All right, let's send them off to the breakout rooms and we'll see you in 10 minutes.
Hello, Vinusi. Let's wait for other participants.
Hello.
So did you हजुरले त्यो क्वेसन्सहरुको answer? Have you thought of it?
मेरो अहिले एकछिन अघि नै यो के अरे कनेक्सन गएको थियो कि म हेर्दैछु भर्खर